needed. All right. Hi, Coaches Up for Change. It's Dee Korchan. I'm with you on Monday. It's September 12th. We've been off, right? Last week was Labor Day, so we didn't get to connect. So I hope you had a good long weekend. So it's been 2 weeks. It's a good time to be back together. And just want to take a minute to celebrate. We celebrate all of our rank ups and all the good stuff. We do that in Coaches Up for Change. But just wanted to let you guys know that in the month of August, we had 18 coaches in our organization rank up and reach a new rank. So that's always exciting. So that means they're helping more people and spreading. And so what I like to do on this call is have executive directors share, depending on how many we have, one each week. So we had 2 new executive directors. I see them both on, Laura Flores and Danny and Edy. Laura, don't worry. I would have prepped you if you were going to be on. I'll have you speak next week. But Danny and Edy are going to share. And really just want to welcome you guys all here. If I don't know you, my name is Dee Korchan. We had 32 new coaches join us in the month of August. So if you are new to our organization, we're glad you're here. We're very proud of the mission that we're on and glad that you decided to step forward and help people as well. So this team, this ball of fire, Danny and Edy Sorrells, I'm going to let them share their story because they haven't been here long, but they are lighting the world on fire and reached executive director in the month of August. So Danny and Edy, you're going to be our inspiration tonight. If you'll take yourselves off mute and share your Optavia stories so far.
Hey, everyone. Well, we're so excited to be here. And we joined Optavia the day after Father's Day. And so 1 week into the program, we decided, we kept asking questions and we're like, man, we were so inspired by my sister's journey. She had lost 80 pounds and Pat, her coach, had lost so much weight and her sister, who was her coach. And so it's just this snowball effect. But we were so excited to be able to help people. And so the reason that we decided to coach is because we had watched the video of stepping into coaching, like a recorded video. And when we watched the video, I told Danny, I was like, man, you know what? I think we could do this. And so he was real skeptical in the beginning. He was like, I think you can do this. And so we stepped into coaching. And after the first week, our goal was really just to help 5 people. Because we were like, if we can get the bonus to help 5 people and earn $250, we were like, that would help us pay for our fueling. So that was our initial goal. And then after that, a little bit ways into helping more than 5 people, I was like, what's next? So we kept asking, what's next? What's next? And then I remember having a celebration call with Dee and Pat. And it was just so encouraging because I told Dee that I'm a numbers person and I'm goal oriented. I'm like, I need to know what's next. She's like, here's what's next. Executive director. And I'm like, what's executive director? I have no idea, but I want to know more. And so we just got really excited. And then we found out that if you help so many people, you do become executive director, plus you get the financial rewards. And then there's this thing called Awaken. And that really got us so excited. I'm going to let Danny talk a little bit about that real quick.
Well, when we started, we were excited about being a part of it, but we really didn't know what we were doing. And so we started going on the Facebook page and everything and just watching people. And the excitement just continued to build.
Yes.
We had both lost, we've lost now close to 80 pounds, a little over 80 pounds between the two of us. This past 2 weeks, I've kind of stopped. And I told her, I said, maybe I need to go eat some fried oysters or something and shock it back into working. She said, no way. So, but anyway, we started in the coaching and we began to help more people, and people are calling. We keep posting things and people just out of the blue call and say, hey, how do I get some of this? And so then we heard about the Awaken, and we were, when we started seeing how much money we could earn, we had a goal of going to see our son in England. He's a fighter pilot in the Marine Corps. And be honest with you, because both of us have taken downwards in pay during the pandemic, we didn't know how we were going to do it, but we wanted to go see him and our grandkids and our daughter-in-law. And so when we started making money, we said, well, this will be our way to pay for it. Well, then we heard about Awaken, and the only thing we could think of is if we can learn at Awaken, we can help more people. And of course, there's more money, but both of us have always been driven to help people. That's part of the ministry. Mm-hmm. And so we're always reaching out to help people. And so, and we have seen just tremendous results. We've got people that were shy, that said, do not show my picture. And now they're saying, oh yeah, you can show it, and things like that. And they're confident. We're seeing confidence built in people. Mm-hmm. And so it just builds right into who we are naturally. And Optavia and the thought of Awaken has just really sparked us. And she keeps me straight. I couldn't do it without her. Let me put it that way. I say, can I eat this? We went to a buffet yesterday after church with some people. And I said, can I eat this? She said, you can have this much. I said, can I have this much more? And she said, no. So, but I listened to her. I'm a good husband.
But it was our first time of going to a buffet. I don't encourage that. Yeah. But it was just one of those things, and we did great. And to be honest, we've seen excellent results because we followed the plan 100%. And it's so rewarding. But back to Awaken really quick, and then I'll turn it back over to you. We had been praying, all just, God, make a way, help us figure out how we're going to get to Awaken. And I mean, just in a miracle, God provided a way, and we are just so thankful and grateful. And we love this community, and we can't wait to be a part of Awaken.
We had even decided that we would drive every day, which would be between 60 and 70 miles from our house, just to be a part of it, because we really couldn't afford it. And if we would have to, the old saying, rob Peter to pay Paul, we would have to rob from our fund of going to see our family to pay for it. And so we just began to pray, and then lo and behold, God provided. Oh, ye of little faith, we became of greater faith because what we saw happen.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I hope you see the smiles of everybody's faces and the comments coming in. Y'all, does that inspire you when you see what we are really doing, right? That we are changing lives, right? So I think it was there's never a coincidence why, I had asked you to share, and then this topic was decided for tonight. I just think that sometimes we forget, right? We're going to talk tonight on the topic of navigating discouragement and disappointment, and it's an inevitable part of life, right? Regardless of your faith, whatever God says will not come without struggle, right? It's going to happen, and it's going to happen in our business, right? It's going to happen on our personal health journey. It's going to happen in our business. But I chose this subject tonight to speak about navigating discouragement and disappointment. One, because I've been kind of going through a season right now, and it seems like a lot of coaches I'm talking to, clients I'm talking to, are feeling it. So give me a 1 in the chat if you've been feeling a little discouragement or disappointment. That's why we're here, right? And you guys know me, part of my leadership philosophy is I really don't want to be Pollyanna. I mean, I get as pumped up as the next person about what's possible, but I also want to keep it real, because sometimes comparison and thinking everybody's got it going on and you're the outcast can really work against us. So I'm about, let's bring it out in the open. And sometimes when we talk about it, things that we can actually be creative together and how to move through things. One of my favorite life quotes is Robert Frost, and he says, the best way out is always through. And what trips us up in this business is sometimes, I call this the mountain, and sometimes we hit disappointment and we hit this mountain, And some people get to the foot of the mountain and they get discouraged, or they start trying to climb the mountain and it just seems too hard and they turn around and they go home, or they sit paralyzed at the foot of the mountain. And what I want to really encourage tonight as we go through this is to talk about the power of sustainability and longevity and one step at a time. And it's always through working through the challenges that we get stronger, we get wiser, and we grow. And growth is never comfortable, but it's always what we need. So, it's going to happen where situations don't play out the way that we want them to. I call them unmet expectations. People don't do what we thought they would do or what they said they would do, whether that's a client or a coach on your team. But it can bring us down, and it can greatly affect the quality of our actions and our mindset. And most importantly, in our business, energy is everything. So I was doing a little research on it, and it was said, like, even leaders like Thomas Jefferson and Winston Churchill, they struggled with depression and at times of despondency when they were going through difficult times. But what we don't want, it's normal and it's human, but what we don't want to do is get stuck there. So I'm all about transparency. So let's put in the comments, like, what has you, like, what's an unmet expectation you have right now, or something that's challenging for you or discouraging for you? Maybe something you didn't expect. Maybe pop that. Let's just pop it in the chat and see what we've got out there. People not staying committed, unexpected cancellations, decrease in volume and clients quitting on themselves. Watching people with so much potential quit. That's often clients and coaches, right? Cancellations, sponsoring. I'm with you. Sponsoring has been a challenge for me this year. And it usually isn't. So that has been a challenge when you're not used to something being that way. Debbie Pasco, now that I thought I'd have it all figured out by now and be humming along, easily successful. Yep, I get that, Debbie. Clients and coaches who give up, coaches with potential that they don't see, my own struggle with consistency in my own health journey. Thanks for being honest around that, Carol. You're not the only one here with that. People not following the plan. Vicki, it looks like you typed in another language. Not sure what. I think you typed, Vicki Meister, you typed in Greek or something there. Unable to find clients that want to get started. Okay, so there's a lot of different things that can bring us down in this. And again, kind of on expectations, or we just thought there would be clients that would want it. So what we want to do is avoid getting in a funk about this, right? So maintaining rank consistently. Thank you. So we want to avoid getting in a funk. And very often what can happen when we get down is we can actually start to decrease our actions. We can actually start to decrease the number of conversations we're having, the number of times we're showing up on Facebook, what we're doing. We can actually start to slow it down, which just drags it even further. And then now it becomes like a boulder that we're pushing up the hill. So one thing I do really, really want to stress is that just even stepping into it and acknowledging disappointment or acknowledging discouragement is important. It is a feeling, it is an emotion. And the worst thing we can do is suppress those emotions, because then they're humming around inside. And as somebody who didn't really like to process emotions, I can tell you they always show up somewhere in your life in some way that's usually unhealthy if we don't just acknowledge it. But I love, Susan Palace did a live last week and she talked about something in discouragement. And she said, it's okay to be discouraged. She said, but set a time limit, how long you're going to be there with it. So you're going to give yourself 15 minutes, going to give yourself a day, but you know what I mean? Set a time limit, because if we're not careful, that discouragement can start as one thing. And then this next thing seems monumental. And then the next thing, and we've lost a week, we've lost a month, we've lost 6 weeks. So it can be a learning opportunity. It can show us what maybe we need to do something different, a little change in actions. Even big companies like Apple and IBM or whatever, they have to come up with new products, new ideas, new marketing techniques. So sometimes what we've always done, we got to shake the snow globe. and we've got to mix it up a little bit. And these are things that we can talk about our coaches with. Not really going to talk too much about specific actions tonight, but really work on what's going on between the two ears. So Lynette, you did a great post in our Facebook group the other day. And I'd love for you to just share for a minute about what was happening in your world and what you did about it and then your outcome.
Great. Thank you, Dee. Yes, I've been going through a hard time. Like Danny and Edy, I was riding that Edy wave, and man, that's a good wave. In January and February, hoping to go to Awaken just like you. And then clients began to fall off. They quit, they stopped, they partial ordered, and I just tanked in my rank, despite doing daily actions. So I had graduated from college and I'm like, well, I'm going to work the business now and daily post, daily. And at 60 days of doing daily action, I was tired. I was discouraged. I was doubting my ability and my willingness to continue coaching. And I was praying like you guys, God, am I supposed to do this? Is this where I belong? Have you been there? I know you have from your post that you had earlier. Well, I didn't stay there. And here's what I did. We have 4 components in our plan, and one of the components are community. So we're not alone. So what I did was I reached out to my community. I talked to my coaches, I talked to their coaches, and I talked to other coaches. And I began to get the support of the community. I met with Frank. I met with Shauna, and Shauna helped me have a reality check. So I had COVID in July, right after convention, and I was still tired. Physically, I was really tired. And she helped me to take a look at the big picture and to put rocks in my schedule for me. So I had begun to put health assessments everywhere I could, and I had lost my time for the farmer's market on Saturdays. So she helped me put that, half day on Saturday back in. And she helped me condense my calls. And so I have them condensed down to 2 days a week. I was trying to please everybody and do everything, to move up. And then I continued to, after getting the rest I needed, I continued to show up with more focused actions. I joined the Go ED, Go Fibbit Facebook page, and I began to do the power half hour, even if it was only a power 15 minutes. And I began to invest in me. And that's what we all need. You need to invest in you as well. Don't beat yourself up for taking time for you when you need it. So I'm beginning to feel stronger, and thankfully I am going to Awaken. Thank you, Dee, and leadership that I'm able to do that. And I have some good news. I've been staying visible, and I've been working with a cardiologist who sent me a patient last month, and she was going to sign up and everything. And then she changed her mind after I told the cardiologist she was going to do it, and decided she was going to have permanent fat removal surgery instead. So I'm like, dang. Anyway, the cardiologist, again, 1 month from the first referral, sent me another referral this week, and I was able to sign her patient up and her husband. So I'm really looking forward to working with them. And thanks to the community of coaches, I have the renewed strength, to continue on. And I want to do it.
So good, Lynette. So good. Like during that time, you build these relationships, right? I think the couple of things, you reached your mentorship, work with it, balance your schedule out, because it can be exhausting, physically and mentally exhausting. And, created that, and you stayed in action, right? And there are 2 points I'd like to make before our next speaker comes on. One thing is, I always want you to think the long game. And this comes in a couple different variations, but the quote I'm going to use is from Matthew Kelly. And he says, we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 10 years. So what we want to be really clear on, you guys, is why are you here? Why did you say yes to coaching? What do you want, right? Because in a season that is tough for us, right? We don't want to let that season taint. You could be at year 8 and look back and go, wow, yeah, I had that rough spot in year 2, or you could be on year 10 and say year 8 was my hardest ever, right? I mean, doesn't that apply to marriages and all sorts of things in life, the raising our kids, all sorts of things, right? It's not always just a linear straight line up. It's like this. So we want to play the long game, but the really good thing, really important thing is during your calm periods that you're very, very clear on your vision, your goal, your purpose, right? So when we're clear on those things, we can recognize that this is part of the journey, but we're not going to give up because of that foundation we built and what we believe in. So I want to have Lori Cole come on, because we had in her mentor session last week, we were talking about this very subject of discouragement. So Lori.
We were. So, when you're in that season, it's hard to see out of it. And so one of the things I want to encourage you as I was thinking about this share is disappointment and discouragement are going to happen. When I taught middle school, that was like an email a day, an email a week. That was, behavior in my classroom, and I was used to it. But what I think was happening is the separation it was about my classroom, or it was about English. And it wasn't about my personal decision to take ownership of my health and to change the world, basically. And so it's more personal as a health coach. So I was talking to Dee, and I was like, here's where I am. I have a gratitude journal, and I have kept it. It's supposed to be like a 1-year journal, and it's turned into kind of like a 4-year plan at this point. But on the days that I focus on what I can be grateful for, what I see is I open my hands for the things that are to come, and I turn loose of all these things that I really have no control over anyway. And that's freedom. My hands are open to who's next and who I can serve next. One of the things that I did last week, I committed to one of my coach friends, and a goal is to write 3 gratitude notes a week to my clients or coaches. So I sent her a picture of those 3 notes going in the mailbox. So that's one of the things I start my day with, gratitude, and especially when I'm going through a season of disappointment or discouragement. Exactly what Dee said. I check my energy. If my energy is lagging, I get on the phone with Dee, and I've been a coach for 7 years, and I've had a lot of cry sessions with her, but I'm like, tell me one thing, Dee, tell me one thing to do this week. I want one thing, because sometimes when you're in it, you're ruminating and you can't think about what's next. So last week, Dee said, I want you to learn how to do a reel on Instagram. And I was like, oh, technology, no, but I did it, and I texted her in an accountability text. I just did my first reel. So you guys go look at my cute dog with music, by the way. I did that. But what I've discovered is that when you're in action, you are combating that negative energy. So the other thing I did last week, I was very intentional. I picked up the phone and I called as many clients. Like if I did a power session, like an hour, I just picked up the phone. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Just wanted to check on you. How you doing? Leaving you a message. And I had so many people come back to me and say, thank you so much for reaching out. And so that really inspired me to keep going. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is check your self-talk. When you see that cancellation, or you see that email where someone's moving their order, what do you say to you? Do you say, oh, I'm a terrible coach. If I was a good coach, that wouldn't have happened? Or do you say, okay, this is an opportunity. This is happening for me, not to me. I'm not a victim. How can I step in this and grab hold of it and be empowered in what's next? And sometimes I call that person and say, hey, what's up? Let's talk about your order. What can I do? How can I support you more? And sometimes, you know what? Most of the time, it's not even about me at all, but I create this story in my head that tells me that I'm a bad coach. So get into action. If I could just say this, in summary, you're going to be disappointed, but it's personal to us because it's our health journey. So step out of that a little bit, go live take pictures, post about your disappointment. Surely you're not the only person who had a terrible weekend and ate off plan all weekend and now you feel miserable on Sunday, right? We've all done this. So post about it, because there are people out there in this world that need to hear that you are not perfect and you don't have it all together. And that's our ministry right there, is a hurting world. So I just want to encourage you guys, you put a stake in the ground for your health, and let's keep putting a stake in the ground. This is not a business. This is about living out a health journey and then grabbing hold and linking arms with people and taking them with us.
100%. Great job, Lori. Great job. Such good points made there. And us being real, that's why I talk about these things, and you guys being real. One of the biggest moves for me and the growth in my business is when my coach had shared with me, like, Dee, you come across a little too perfect. And you need to be real out there. And when I did, it was amazing, the magnet of what that attracted. So thank you for that. And really, a really key point that Lori said too, is how we're viewing it. And if we view ourselves as a victim, right? Or is it an opportunity? And I talked to somebody the other day and she was like, well, you know what, if I was just younger, like so-and-so, and had young friends, well, then all those moms would want to become coaches. And I was like, yeah, no, that's a story. That's not a fact, so we got to be careful of the narrative that we're telling ourselves. So want to have Stephanie Sweeney come on. Stephanie had reached out to me. We had some changes in the compensation plan, and she just shared with me. She said, hey, I want to share my thoughts around this. And I thought it was powerful, and feel free to share on whatever you want, Stephanie, but I really thought that your mindset that you bring to this business is so important. So if you can share with us.
Yeah, I was excited when Dee asked me to share on the mindset of navigating disappointment and discouragement, because being a school neuropsychologist by education and training, the human brain is just fascinating. And I was also nervous because I have to be vulnerable and to actually put into action these skill sets that I'd like to share with you really quickly this evening. As humans, we are neurobiologically hardwired to make sense of something very quickly, especially when we don't have all the full information. And also, especially when it's something that triggers us with strong emotions like disappointment or discouragement. We often create these stories in our mind to make sense what happened. And it usually goes to the WCSs, which is worst case scenario. And then our brain just chemically rewards us for these stories, whether they're accurate or not. And then that goes into this cognitive loop that we continue on. And, it really roots down into that self-protective survival skill that we just go to with our primitive brain that we read about in our habits of health as well. And again, that narrative loop that goes on often magnifies those fears and anxiety. And then it's a whole lot easier when we can offload that emotion, whether it's instead of feeling it, whether it is coming across as anger or blame or avoidance, or we push it down into kind of like an emotional beaker. And then one little drop of one little person saying something, or a client canceling or not answering your call, then it explodes. And then it triggers into all throughout the aspects of your life, throughout your family and through your friends and into your business. And if we learn to kind of lean into that discomfort and then go through the process, the research shows us that we can actually increase our resilience and resist that setback a lot faster, and those disappointments a lot faster, and then move forward. So some tips I'd like to share with you that's based on research and also our habits of health, our transformation system, is first just becoming aware, just acknowledging what button has been pushed. How do you know that you're hooked on emotions with something that happens? I personally know, because I push back the fuelings and I go straight to the kettle corn. And before I know it, I have a whole bowl full of kettle corn and I'm not even hungry. And so it's there where we stop and we just take that breath. And then next, we got to name it and we got to feel it. Like Susan Pallas said, just stay with that for a little while, set that timer, but feel it. Challenge yourself to have that willingness to feel uncomfortable and to feel your way through that emotion with a time limit. And third, finally, get curious to engage in a reality check. of that story that's made up in your mind. You know, a really powerful tool to use when you're doing that reality check is the phrase, the story I am making up is, you know, and saying that phrase out loud, or writing it down, or calling your mentors and saying, the story I'm making up in my mind is, and then just doing that reality check where you can get out of your own head and have your mentors or see it on paper to let you know that this is actually what's happening. You know, some part of it is true, but here are where you're filling in the gaps of that story. And so just being aware that what has triggered you, naming that emotion and letting yourself feel it, and then moving on and being curious is, you know, making sure that you're checking that accuracy of that story can help it prevent into turning into a much, much bigger problem. You know, and just knowing that you're not alone, and knowing that your mentors have passed through similar struggles and disappointments and discouragements, and those are going to always continue throughout your life and throughout your business. But leaning into them, into your mentors, just as much as you're leaning into that discomfort. And those kind of leaning ins will help you learn how to navigate reality check and remind yourself that you're why you're in this current struggle and that it's worth it. So I just want to leave you with a quote from Brene Brown, is that you are imperfect, you're wired for struggle, but you're worthy of love and belonging. So, thanks, Dee.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was so good. I've got so many notes, and I love what you said, Stephanie, when you said the story I'm making up is, because it almost removes you from the process, right? Like it makes it more objective. Like, okay, you know, that is good. That helps me right now in my life. So, so thank you for that. And, you know, all great achievements, you guys, come with struggle, right? And great resistance. It's just true. It's part of it, but it's actually, this is where character is developed. And this is where growth happens. So can I share with you 3 things? Because I've done this for 11 years, and I can tell you that things have not gone on my time. There have been times I've hit up against the struggle and the mountain, and I've thought about turning around and walking away, whatever. But there's a couple of things that I come back to, and I actually have some visuals. And I am going to talk about 2 or scripture, and no matter what your faith is, just know that it still applies, like the verse. But the one thing I will tell you is that comparison is always the thief of joy. Always the thief of joy. So you're going to see somebody raked up. Oh my God, they got all these accelerator bonuses. You know, you're going to see things that make you potentially could make you feel like crap. So comparison is a thief of joy. Just encourage you to run your own race. Be you, stay in your own lane. Only you are going to be able to make the difference in the world you want by being you and staying clear up here. And I will just tell you, the tortoise always wins. I am the tortoise always wins. So stay consistent. But the 2 verses that I personally go to, my favorite one is Nehemiah 6:3, and it has to do with knowing what your purpose is, whatever. But I come back to this. I've got stickers all over the place that say, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. I don't care what your faith is. If you believe in this mission, you are doing a great work. Right. And it would be a disservice to yourself and to others to step down when it got hard. Right. And the other one, and this rings true. And if we could only remember it during the hard times, but Galatians 6:9, let us not become weary of doing good, for at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And that is so true. Again, take your faith out of it. But if you stay consistent, right, with it, and you believe in your heart with what you're doing, if you're doing good, it will always come back. So thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you to Lynette, to Lori, and to Stephanie to be vulnerable and sharing their stories. Thank you guys for being vulnerable and sharing in the comments. We're excited about next week's call. Our committee met today, and we've got the next 6 weeks covered. So you're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you got it in your calendar and invite your team to join us. And then if you want, we've got the large group community call that's going on right now. David and Terry Miller are leading that. The link is in our Facebook group. And then Dan Bell has a call available for us at 8:45. Dan Bell, Integrated Presidential Director, opens his room for us. So love to see you. And tomorrow night's community call will be followed by our sneak peek into coaching. So that's a great opportunity to invite. So love being on this mission with you guys, and have a great rest of the evening. Bye-bye.